So I thought about in this video to finish up a few things that we did last month in July in the garden. We picked a bunch of cowpeas. Now this is something that we grew that was really new to us this year, so I researched how to harvest cowpeas. So we ended up just letting them dry on the vine and picking them that way. We did pick some fresh, but I think we like the drying on the vine better because it's easier for us to just go ahead and harvest whenever everything's just dry, because we are working on so much other stuff preserving from the garden that this was probably just the easier way for us. So they are a dried bean. We just store them into this big old jar. There is some still out in the garden that I might go ahead and pick and put in another jar, but this is actually quite a bit of beans. I'm just going to pressure cook them into meals throughout the winter, into soups and stuff like that. And then I went ahead and harvested all of my celery last month. So as I mentioned before, I grow my celery next to my asparagus. But I'm thinking now that I might actually try to grow my celery somewhere else just to see if it does a little bit better. It does just fine growing next to the asparagus, but I don't get the really big, thick stalks that I'm looking for like you do in the grocery store. So I think next year I'm going to try to plant it somewhere else, kind of wherever I have some shade. So I'm going to try to do that differently next year. So all I do here is I just harvest them and I clean them really well, then cut them up and blanch them, and just for like a couple minutes, and then I put them onto a tray with parchment paper. Then I'll put these into these half-gallon freezer bags, and you can see here just how loose they are. You don't want them sticking together. That's why I like to flash freeze them first. And then I'll put them in my deep freeze because it seems to keep the celery separately so they're not sticking together. And it's easier to just grab a handful whenever I'm ready to cook with it. So in my last video, I didn't think I filmed any of this, but I guess I did. I didn't quite remember. So we did cut up a bunch of jalapenos and non-hot jalapenos. And of course we used gloves this year because long time ago we learned the hard way because it can really burn your skin and your fingernails. So we used gloves this time and we cut it all up, and we made quite a bit of jars of some jalapenos this year. So excited to actually use that, and the non-hot ones are actually for me and the kids. I've also been putting up a bunch of squash this year into the freezer. I put up squash just about any way possible that you can think of. I've shredded it, I've put them in whole, I put them in sliced up, and just chopped them up and put them in freezer bags. So I'm really happy that we actually got squash this year because we barely got any last year. And then another focus that we've been going through is saving some seeds. So I actually started by saving some flower seeds. Some of these beautiful zinnias that you're seeing here, I saved a bunch of flower seeds from them, and that way I just don't have to buy any next year. I'm trying to cut my cost on saving a bunch of seeds. And I also saved a bunch of our pepper seeds, and I put them in individual bags and put the name on them, so next year I'll know exactly what they are, and I'll just put them in my seed container for next year. So I got a lot to do today. We are almost at the end of August, so I'm going to collect some bean seeds today and get quite a bit done actually before it gets too hot outside, which thankfully it's going to be in the 80s this week instead of 90s, so I can bear being out here. So it's kind of bittersweet. Tomorrow is the first day of school, and I'm really sad. My kids are going back to school. My kids are not on a schedule. They haven't been on a schedule. I've been trying to get them back on a schedule, but it's just kind of hard coming off the summer break. So tomorrow's going to be a little rough, and the rest of the week. So I'm going to get these bean seeds collected before it gets too hot, and I think I'm going to cut down some of my comfrey, and I'm going to layer the leaves around my fruit trees. And then I'm probably going to mulch my fruit trees today. So I'm just going to get a lot done today before tomorrow. It's the first day of school, so I probably won't have a whole lot of time tomorrow. So after I harvest a few times off of my green beans, I literally just stop watering them, which these are on some drip line. It's just fine. It took a lot longer for them to kind of dry out, but I just leave them alone, and I just literally let the plants produce more beans, and then I let them completely dry over time. Then you'll be able to tell whenever they're completely dry. And then I'll just pick them off into a bucket, and then later on I will just take the beans out of the shells and I will just store them into a little plastic bag and put them where my seed container is. I actually have a ton from last year, so I didn't really pick a whole lot, but the rest of the stuff I went ahead and cleaned up this bed and gave it to the pigs and chickens. They absolutely love all these scraps that come out of the garden. The plus side is giving the pigs all of these scraps from the garden, a summer garden. It's giving them all these nutrients before they go off to slaughter next month. So we're trying to feed them as much as possible from the garden so they can stay healthy, because that's the meat that we're going to be eating later on. So we've had a few trees dying around our chicken house this year. We've had this one right here, it literally snapped and luckily missed the propane tank. So this other one right here looks like it might be dying a little bit too. And then we would like to take this tree down too because it's leaning and we don't want to risk it falling on the propane tank if some of the branches fall off. I think we're going to rent a type of machine where my husband can get up into the tree and start from the top and start cutting down the branches, doing it safely so we're not going to damage the chicken house or the fences or the propane tank or even our garden fence over here. So we actually had another tree fall, which we've already cleaned all this up. We had another tree fall that was in the pig pen. The pigs killed this tree, which we should have known better, but this is where we wanted our pig pen. So we had this tree inside of this pig pen and they rooted so much that it killed out this tree last year, and it ended up falling on this middle fence right here that's in between the chicken run and the pig pen. So we cleaned that up the other day. Luckily, no chickens were hurt, no pigs were hurt. It's just damaged the fence just a little bit. You can kind of see it's all bent up. My husband tried to straighten it up a little bit. So there's still quite a bit of logs in there that we need to clean out because the pigs actually keep nibbling on them. And it's probably not good for them at all, so need to get those out. We actually been stacking them up over on our wood pile for our weenie roast that we have or going to have this fall. We've actually had a couple on these nice days that we've been getting. So I had to go inside and put my hair up. It is getting kind of hot out here. So I am going to cut some comfrey now, and I'm going to put the leaves around my fruit trees because there's lots of nutrients and minerals in these leaves of comfrey plant. So my plan is to mulch on top of the leaves so all the nutrients will eventually decay and go into my fruit tree roots. There's a lot of bees on this comfrey plant right now. They're loving the flowers, so hopefully I won't disturb them too much, but I'm going to go ahead and get started before it gets really hot out here. I got my comfrey. You can see I just took out the bottom layers of these big leaves. I don't want to take too much of the plant because I don't want to kill it off, which I think it's hard to kill off comfrey because the roots just grow really well. So you can see I got a wheelbarrow full of my leaves, and I'm just going to go put them around the fruit trees now and see how far that gets me. But you can just see this thing is loaded with bees right now. So I had to be extra careful not to disturb them. They're just working away at these comfrey flowers right now. So I'm at my fruit tree orchard right now, and I'm gonna weed out all the weeds around the trees because a lot of this mulch is breaking down and a lot of weeds have been taking over this summer. So every couple weeks I will weed out the weeds. So I'm gonna do that today before I lay down this comfrey. And then once I lay the comfrey down, I have a huge pile of mulch in the back that I'm going to bring back over and lay on top of this comfrey. So as everything sits and decays this fall and winter, all the nutrients will go down into the roots and it will keep my fruit trees really healthy. So this is one of my apple trees. It's actually younger than this apple tree over here, just by a year, but it started producing apples last year. It actually produced, I think, 1 or 2 apples last year, and we have quite a bit more this year. So I'm going to start with this tree, and you can see there's a ton of weeds at the very bottom. So I'm going to rip all that out real quick, and then I'm going to lay down my comfrey leaves, and I'm going to work my way down on each tree doing the same thing. So the second apple tree here has quite a bit of apples on it. It won't be long, we'll be harvesting these apples. I'm so excited. I'm going to do exactly what I did last year, and I'm going to freeze apple pie filling. It was amazing. So hopefully these ones taste just as good as the ones I had last year, because the ones I had last year are actually from a family member. So this year I'm excited to actually put up our own apples. But I'm going to go ahead and get this started so I can get this done today. Okay, so I got all of them laid down. So my newer trees over here on this side doesn't have as much as my older trees, so that's fine. Next year I'll do the same thing. I'll have a bigger comfrey patch. So I'm gonna go hook up to the trailer on the four-wheeler, and I'm gonna go to my mulch pile and get a bunch of mulch so I could put them on these trees and be done for the day. All right, the first one is done. I really like this setup. I have the chicken wire around this tree, helps keep the rabbits out, the squirrels, and I think I might do this with all my trees eventually, because these tree collars, my trees have grown out of these tree collars and they're kind of suffocating the trunk a little bit. And instead of investing in some more tree collars, I might just invest in some chicken wire and spread it out, just to keep the rabbits off of these trees. They like to nibble at the bottom of the trunk. So I really like this setup because it's more, I mean, it's probably about 2 foot high, so there's just a better chance of keeping things out away from the tree. And I know squirrels can still probably climb and get up on this, but I have this handy dandy owl right here that's gonna help with that. So I have him set up here looking at my apples so the squirrels will stay away, since it's apple season right now. We're getting ready to harvest in a month or so. So He is looking down on both of my apple trees right now because they're the only two that has fruit on them right now in season. So this just mainly helps with the rabbits right now. So I'm definitely going to invest in some more chicken wire and put around all these trees because I want to keep them protected as much as I can since they're still young. So this is at the driveway looking into the orchard. I have 4 fruit trees on this side and 3 fruit trees on this side. So they're all mulched, looking beautiful. I love looking at fresh mulch when it's done. Now we just gotta mow here in a couple days and it'll look fantastic. These are my 2 apple trees. We'll be harvesting apples really soon. The second one right here is loaded with apples. This is our second year with apples on that tree. And we actually had 1 apple on this tree last year, so we actually have quite a bit on this tree too. Get you a closer look to see what they look like. So we got some nice looking apples on this one. You can just see they're everywhere. And then this tree, the apples are a little on the small side. I don't know if they'll get bigger as the tree matures, but this is what the apples look like. So you could just see just how many are in here. It's awesome. I'm going to continue to do what I did last year and make apple pie filling, and I'm excited to actually see if they will keep and not turn brown as fast. So my husband and I decided to grow 2 more apple trees at the very end of this fence line, way down there. So that'll probably be a new addition next year for spring. And I won't have to worry about too much of these trees on this side. I will just have to keep my water hose way down there for the new tree. So looking from this angle, my fruit tree orchard is over here, and that's the driveway. And then to the left, looking straight out from our house, this is where we plan to put 2 more apple trees on this side of the yard. So I will just have to run out a hose this way and keep them watered all the time next year. So now this is the last part of this video. We are on the side of my house, and this is our maple tree that I planted probably 3 or 4 years ago. It's very slow growing, but it's finally starting to get tall. It's actually taller than me now. I went ahead and mulched around this one, and there's one right over here. This one's a little slower growing, but I'm so excited to see what color they are going to be this fall. My husband's hoping they are going to be like an orangish yellow color. I'm kind of hoping they're going to be like a burgundy color, but we'll see. He's probably going to be right. They're probably going to be the orangey yellow color, which I really like that color too. So it'll be really cool looking out our side window from our living room, and one day whenever these are big, it'd be nice seeing them in full color whenever it's fall, and then they fall to the ground whenever it's time for all the leaves to fall off. So I got all of the mulch done on here and on the other one. So basically all my trees that need to be mulched are mulched for fall and winter. I don't have to worry about them now. All I have to do is worry about them in the springtime. I'll have to redo the mulch. So this is the last thing that I did today, was mulch my front flower bed. My hydrangeas are dying off for the year. I'm waiting to trim them back. I always wait till they're fully dead and brown before I do that. But I went ahead and put my mulch down in this bed. That way it can decompose all winter, and then it'll just give that nutrients to the plant next spring. So I love using fresh tree mulch up here. I don't ever use the dyed stuff anymore, and this is wonderful. Thank you guys for watching our video today. I'm so glad I got all of that done, and hopefully now I can start working on the main garden for fall and winter. So hopefully that'll be soon, and we will see you guys on the next video.